Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Internationalie podcast. Before we start, let me talk a little bit about the podcast. So, the Internationalie podcast is going to be a space where different international students, prospective ones, as well as current international students could get a glimpse of the life of international students in the US or abroad. This week, I am joined by my very dear friend, Kuleni. Welcome to the show, Kuleni.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I just have to say that it's been a year since I recorded this podcast, and we just thought that we recorded a whole 20 minutes, I think, but I realized that I didn't press record, so that just goes to show that, it takes a village, I guess, to get this going, and I'm very, very thankful for your patience. Honestly, I don't know how you did it, but yes, I wanted to say thank you so much for being my 31st guest.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here.
Amazing. Okay, so before we get started, let me talk a little bit about your background. So Kuleni is originally from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. She's currently a cybersecurity consultant with a passion for all things digital defense. She majored in cybersecurity engineering at George Mason University and went on to earn her master's in digital forensics and cyber analysis. Outside of work, she's an active mentor with women in cybersecurity, supporting the next generation of women in cybersecurity. Would you like to add more to your bio?
No, I think you mentioned everything. I'll just add that I'm really excited to reconnect with you after so many years, and really excited to be here.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been definitely more than 10 years since we definitely more than 10 years, but I feel like you left in 5th, 6th grade, and I left in 10th grade. Shout out to Nazri School and everybody who will be listening from our school, but I'm very, very happy that we reconnected, and I can't wait to dive in on this topic with you. So the title of our episode is Dealing with Unwritten Rules of Success. So what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear that title?
Thank you. That is a good question. So, what comes to mind when I think of success and all of the invisible rules that surround it? We can start by defining success, right? So it's our culture, our background tells us the checklist of what you're supposed to go through. So you have the professional success, recognition by your peers, your credentials, the prestigious things you do in your life, whether or not you have a family, whether or not, if you're an immigrant or somebody in that situation, there's the intergenerational gain, right? Fulfilling all of the sacrifices that were made for you. Mm-hmm. And so that we define success often in those terms. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's your personal well-being and happiness, right? Your peace of mind, where you are in life. So working backwards, if that's what success is, when we think about how do we get there, there are often these invisible rules that determine how we get there, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, things like what you prioritize in your life, how you network, who notices your work, are you visible? So things like that determine how successful you are. So I was reflecting on this actually. I'll read to a book I read by Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. I'm sure everyone has.
Yeah.
Something he likes to say is you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of systems, right? So in your life, there's this theme of systems over goals. So for instance, for any goal or any habit you want to build, there's the process and then there's the outcome, right? If you're somebody who wants a clean house, then you have to be the kind of person that can live in a clean house, don't pick up everything, leave it on the floor, everything needs its place, right? Mm-hmm. So same thing with success. If you want to be the person that is successful, then your habits factor in. If you're somebody who has good grades and want to pursue that kind of professional success, then you have to set yourself up by setting up a system where you go to the right school, you have access to the right people, to the right alumni network. If you're at work and you're working hard, you have to set yourself up so that your hard work is visible to somebody who has decision-making power that could help you, right? So the invisible rules are these factors that we're not taught and can't see, but they really do make a difference in terms of who's not.
Right, right. Oh my God, I love that explanation, and I completely agree with what you said about how there are so many unwritten rules of success, and we have to kind of like navigate that as we experience life and as we see, other people doing it, because I feel like, especially as an international student, when you are in a space that is new, that is different, and you're trying to navigate something that maybe you're the first person in your family to go to a college in the US, or it's a predominantly white institution. And so there are a lot of things that you have to navigate through to get through that experience and get that degree at the end, right? And so I'm very happy that we're talking about this topic, because I feel like it doesn't get talked a lot. And the book that you mentioned, Atomic Habits, I'm sure at this point everybody knows that book. I still haven't read it. It's in my to-do list, honestly. But I've heard really, really great things about it. But you mentioned habits, and I wanted to circle back to that and ask you, like, what are some habits that you have cultivated that helped you become successful in college?
All right, thank you. That's a great question. By the way, you should totally read the book. I recommend
I
it.
know, I will.
In terms of habits, when I was in college, I really tried to reflect and tried to learn the things that would set me up to be successful long term. So one of those things was learning how to be comfortable in situations where I don't know everything, or in situations that are new for me, and also learning things efficiently. So, for example, things like, let's say, admitting you're wrong, asking for help when you need help, dealing with imposter syndrome, because if you're in a new environment, it's something we all struggle with, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
also creating a controlled environment for yourself where the stakes are low, so you can get good at learning new things and failing at them before you have to do those things at work or in your future, right? So one of the things that have enabled me to do that is constantly experimenting with learning new hobbies. I have a friend who likes to say her hobbies are hobbies because she's exploring new things. But I really, because that lets you experiment with things, learning new skills, understanding yourself
Mhm.
this in a way that if you feel like it's not going to have a negative impact on you.
Right.
And the second point that's kind of related to the first point is learning things efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Not comparing yourself to somebody who was a lifelong learner or who grew up immersed in that thing, not feeling bad about not knowing or not being good, and in, instead just learning or how to how to pick up on skills that are essentials. So to give you an example, if somebody learns a new language as an adult,
Yeah.
it's really useful to compare yourself to a native speaker, right? That person has had 20 years of experience speaking,
Mm-hmm.
but instead, you can look up what's the average unique words a person speaks per day. Like that's probably up to 2,000 unique words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Approaching it like, I'm going to look up the most frequently used 1,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna learn how to use those words, and I'm just gonna have to be. I'm gonna learn the economy of words and work with what I got until
Mm-hmm.
where I don't have to do that anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
that you're not learning everything from scratch, and it doesn't hold you back. Doesn't make you feel bad about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get to a point where you know, understand what you don't know, and ask the right questions and move on from there.
Right, right. No, I totally understand and agree with what you said about how, and I think it's also part of the struggle is like you constantly comparing yourself to other people's success that might make you feel like you're not being successful in whatever, thing that you're doing. But I think it's always important and I've always had this mentality that it's important to compare yourself to your previous self rather than to somebody else, because as long as you're continually growing and working to be a better person each day, I feel like that is success, at least to me. Because as you said, if you compare yourself to let's say an adult like native speaker of a language and you're just starting out to learn that language, obviously, when you put it like that, it makes sense that you shouldn't compare your linguistic abilities to someone who's been speaking it all their lives. But I still understand the struggle is real, because we live in a world where, especially in the US, it's very competitive. It's you have to stand out all the time, so you're constantly trying to find ways of, I guess, marketing yourself as this unique individual, in a world that's trying to make you conform, and limit your amazing, special, unique qualities. And so I wanted to ask you, like, have there been moments where you felt that pressure to like conform, and how did you maintain like your true self in that environment?
Yes. I think we all experience that, especially, I'm sure you feel it in college, but I think to me, this was especially prevalent when I was looking for jobs in the job market. Because, like I mentioned, there are people who've been working, or like who've already achieved what you're trying to work on. Somebody programming since they were two, when like you're just going to college and like start from scratch, right? So I would say bringing what you can bring authentically to the table, right? We all have our own qualities. We all have our own differences. So approaching it from that direction, I think, will help you out a lot. For I was a junior or a sophomore in college when I decided to go into cybersecurity because I took an elective class, and but then that meant, because the school I was going to did not offer that program, so I right, and then after transferring, I have to figure out, okay, how am I gonna get an internship, or like how am I gonna find a way into this industry? But then if everybody like the some people have decided in high school or even early, so our experiences are gonna be different, right? How I was able to find a way into that industry was capitalizing on the skills I already had. So I was already good at research. I was already good at like investigation and like analysis and sort of like things within that realm, right? And I know I live close to DC, so there are a lot of government contractors, right? So rather than just getting into engineering directly, I spent a few years working at a consultancy firm where I was sort of, the role is open source intelligence analyst, but basically it's a lot more research. Obviously, there are technical aspects to it as well, but you also need a lot of skills in research. In basically, you can approach it. You can think of it as if you were a journalist that's really technical, right? So kind of combination of those two skills. And because I worked in that environment, then when I finally outgrew my role and I was ready to pursue my next internship, I already had that on my resume. So approaching things from what you already have, what you're already good at, really goes a long way and really helps you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing. I think that's very helpful, because you kind of highlighted how, as you were, starting up without the experience, there were other people who've been doing, cybersecurity for a while, and the way you navigated that, honestly, it's very admirable. Like, what made you interested in that field, if I may ask?
So in the beginning, it was just the course I took. It was a
Okay.
101
It was
beginning.
cybersecurity 101.
Yeah, it was literally 101.
That's so nice.
But
Uh-huh.
I had the opportunity to do a few labs, and I was already planning on being an engineer, right? I said to myself, hey, like this is a young industry. It has a lot of potential. There are a lot of investments. Like I said, I live around DC, so there are a lot of opportunities. I could either go and be a software engineer and there's nothing wrong with being a software engineer, obviously, but I had the opportunity to do something different, something more exciting, and I really wanted to go pursue something that was new and really become an expert at that instead of doing something that I felt like I. So that was what interested me initially. But of course, as I mentioned, a lot of the things and a lot of the things that I was working on had already aligned with me because as I mentioned, I'm a reader. I like research.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of like overlapping skills that I already had that
Mm-hmm.
that gave me an easier time pursuing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Honestly, I really admire that. Like even for me when I'm reflecting back, like first year of college, I was supposed to be pre-med and then, like Ethiopian parents and all the pressure. Like, okay, fine, I'll be a doctor. But then at the end, I mean, I was taking organic chemistry and, cell biology, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. And so I switched sophomore year to like sociology and economics in a field that I didn't know anybody doing that. But the classes I took really, were fascinating and the professors were amazing. I'm like, oh my God, like I want to do this. And so that meant that I had to create my own journey and I had to I guess what is it, like defy the expectations that were already set. And that doesn't come easily, but I feel like there's a certain level of like reward when it comes to like this is my own path and I'm navigating it on my own. I don't know what success is going to look like, but every step that I'm taking, I know that it's towards some goal. And I'm happy. I mean, it worked out and I have supportive parents.
yeah,
So
I commend you for doing that because it's
yeah,
equally important to know what doesn't work for you. It's
yeah,
equally important as knowing as what you want to do because
exactly.
you can eliminate that from the list, right?
Exactly. And that's what I learned. It's like when I took these classes, I was like, I absolutely do not like it. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. And I think that also comes with a level of privilege also, because for you to be able to say like, yeah, I don't want to do this, let me go study this, that also comes with privilege. Because I mean, back in Ethiopia, when you go to college, like it's based off of like the score you get, in 12th grade, and then like you get placed into this major and you can't switch once you're in it. And so I definitely do feel that like, I was able to make that choice, and I hope that I made the best out of it. But it also requires you to really have a great sense of self-awareness to understand what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want, especially when you have to convince people that, oh, this is actually what I want to do, when it's something that, they've never seen anybody do it. Did you relate with that?
Absolutely. And this is why I love the topic we're discussing today because
Yeah.
it's another invisible rule, self-awareness and privilege, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it requires a lot of bravery to say, which even though I've put maybe a year, 2 years into this thing,
Mm-hmm.
I throw myself into finishing it. I'm going to redirect. That takes a lot of bravery. And then also, even though we have the privilege of choosing what we want to do with our life, sometimes that comes with choice paralysis. There are multiple routes you can take, and that kind of paralyzes you sometimes because you don't know what to
Yeah.
choose, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you mentioned self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I You should make a list. There are a short list of like things you really, really care about.
Mm-hmm.
You should just choose one and go for it and pursue it because sometimes we kill ourselves over the question, what if, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes I think you just have to, as long as you like, it's on the
Mm-hmm.
short you like,
Yeah.
just choose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I completely agree with what you said, because I feel like at the end of the day, success like looks different for everybody. And there's like the outward success, but also like internally, do you actually feel successful? Are you satisfied with what you're doing? Do you find joy in the work that you're doing? Like I feel like at the end of the day that those are questions that are very important. And right now I'm in the search for a job after grad school, and so even now it's like I'm really contemplating about these questions, like what do I really want to do, like what where do I see myself thriving and not just, you know, surviving, you know what I mean? Like there are questions. This transition time is very interesting, and I wanted to ask you, like, how was it for you, you know, the transition from being you know, in college to like the workforce, and now that you're in it, how does your view of success look like? Did it change at all?
Yes, it's changed a lot. I think when I was graduating from college, my
Mm-hmm.
priority was just like external, right?
Mm-hmm.
In college, you know, you don't have a lot of stability. You haven't come into your financial stability, right? So things like that, because those play a factor, you're instantly looking for something that makes you feel safe and that makes you feel stable, versus a few years in the workforce, those things shift around a little bit because now you're looking for fulfillment as well. But my journey was never I try something and I get it. I get the thing that I want immediately.
Yeah.
I've had to take a few reroutes. So the first thing I already mentioned, right? I like my first internship. I had to look for something else that could help me get into get my foot into the industry. But then what happened was my boss at the time, he was really a wonderful advocate and mentor for me. So by the time I learned a lot and I outgrew that role, he introduced me to somebody who was looking for someone to hire, and it turned out to be the role I was looking for. So then that's how I got my second role. And then I worked a few years, and that really helped me get to the point where I was ready to pursue my full-time role. And then I worked in that for a few years. And then again, my boss was amazing, an amazing advocate, and he really sponsored me in the sense of that he was really able to advocate for me in rooms I wasn't in. So because of that, I was able to get promoted. So in the last 5 years, I think I had 4 roles.
Wow.
Something I want to it does get easier because you have the experience of what you want, what you like, what you don't like. And you also have a professional network, right? You could have people that could introduce you to other people. Your network is bigger. So things like that really make it easier. As you get older, you tend to value like what's the total package of this, right? Like fulfillment to your compensation to the things you work on from your day to day. So it really does get easier as you as you move forward in your career.
Yeah. And that's so fascinating for me to hear, honestly, because it really reminds me of the power of mentorship and having people who are advocates for you in spaces where you are not in. And this could be like your professors, your bosses, as you mentioned, just people in general who like see your potential and are like unwavering in their commitment to support you to succeed in your life. And I feel like a lot of successful people, if you ask them, they would definitely attribute, you know, their success to, you know, somebody or someone who once helped them get to this point, who later, you know, and it's all like connected. And most of the time, obviously, like, you know, we can't just do this on our own. We need a whole village of people to support us to get to where we are. And even for me, when I was in undergrad, I had a mentor who was my professor, who was my advocate. Like there was this internship that I was actually in New York, my junior year summer, that I was doing, and they were like, so I got it, but then they were like, oh, you have to pay this amount of money. I was like, oh my god, like this is ridiculous. And then my professor actually called them, and she was like, you guys are gonna miss out on this girl if you don't accept her. And I didn't know that. Like she told me after the fact, and they were like, okay, fine. So like they waived that requirement for me. And I feel like that was like, I didn't ask her to do that. She did that out of the blue. But then that internship actually really helped me understand what I wanted to do, because that was when I came, you know, to the school that I'm in now. Like looked at like the professors and the students, and so like the opportunities that you don't think are gonna happen because, you know, someone else believes in you, is it's just tremendous. And I just can't emphasize that enough, and how much it has helped me in the past.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. That's a beautiful story. But yeah, it's true. if you have a good mentor, they can see you before you have the confidence to ask for those things yourself. Because especially you mentioned you were an undergrad, maybe
Yeah.
you might not have felt comfortable asking her to do, but she did it regardless. So
Exactly.
I would really say, especially when choosing your mentor,
Mhm.
it's really important that someone who understands your background, and also someone who has like repeated contact with you, someone who knows you, sees you a lot, so they will for you to that degree.
Exactly. And I feel like that is one of the most important things, is like spending that time with, it could be a professor or a boss, even outside of the regular work setting, so they can see you as a whole individual who is, multifaceted. Like, we're not just students, we're not just, people with jobs. We have other interests, other things that, fulfill us. And so I feel like, yeah, so mentorship definitely is a very important part of the unwritten rules of success. What are some of the things that also you feel like maybe international students struggle with when it comes to achieving something? Like, the way I'm thinking about it is that we all have different goals and ideas in mind when we start out our careers and college experiences. But what are some things that you've seen that is very common that a lot of people struggle with?
The one that comes to mind immediately is speaking up, or like really pursuing things that you feel that you deserve. I feel like as an international student, maybe you might feel out of place, or maybe culturally it might be difficult to adapt to this type of environment, right? Where everybody's competitive, like we're all going for the same type of opportunities. So I think speaking up, that was a challenge for me as well. But there are ways where you can approach, if you're not necessarily a very direct person, there are ways you can approach that without having to be so forward. So, for example, I take a lot of resources from leanin.org. I know that's targeting a lot of women that are later in their careers, but
Mm-hmm.
mentioned I mentor young students as well. So it's a resource I like to use because they all have this helpful tips that you don't necessarily think of as a young professional. So one concept I was introduced to is influence without authority. So basically, that's how to get people to do what you want, but not as like directly telling them, or because you're not their boss, you wouldn't have direct influence to get them to do that for you, right? So influencing without authority, it's more like selling yourself or selling others on your ideas so they can buy into it. So, for example, it's things like you have to understand how other people work, or like the social environment you're in. For instance, some people, sometimes it's like a very like high stress, like really high paced, fast paced environment. Some people are visual learners, some people are not. Some people really love to collaborate with you. So there are like always styles in different environments we're in, right? So the first
Mm-hmm.
thing, you really have to research, and you have to understand like who's successful and how do they behave and how did they get to that point, right? And then another thing is, before you walk into a room, you always have to do the work. You always have to research the things you're gonna ask for. Basically, you need to establish your craft. And this has like this. The first one is to help you with your imposter syndrome, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when you walk in and maybe you have to defend yourself, maybe you have to speak for yourself, but you do it from a point of having done the research, and you know the facts, you know the market research, and you know the numbers. So what you're saying will have like the added weight of all of that. And the other tip is collaboration, like really working with people, making it so that like they have good with you. So when you're in situations where you're scared to speak up, then they could speak on your behalf, or like you have someone that could back your work. So I think learning how to do that, it's a very like tricky and like delicate skill, but I
Yeah.
think it help a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with what you said, especially about like speaking up in a space where you're not comfortable. It does take a lot from you, especially when you grew up in a culture or an environment that, speaking up was not rewarded or you weren't encouraged to do that. But, as you grow older, like you are your own best advocate. And to do that, as you said, like you have to do your own research and, you have to be prepared and you have to speak up. Because I remember when I was in college and there would be times that I was the only, person
Mm-hmm.
who was black, or, and then there would be a topic and everybody would look at me like, oh, do you have something to say? And I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, I guess I could say something. But, those moments really like helped me I like understand and like do my research and do my homework, because I cannot be just saying whatever was on my mind. Like I had to back it up with evidence. And so it made me really I guess informed and more aware about the issues that I was, that I really cared about. And this goes back to like what you said about like networking and like meeting new people. I feel like that is also like another, I mean, we did like a networking is like this big thing where like people either really love it or really hate it. What is your take on it?
My first exposure to networking was I went to the career services at my college, and like they had resources about elevator pitch and like
Yeah.
things like that, where it just feels so robotic, and like it's really hard to imagine yourself going up to someone you don't know and it's like, hey, I'm Kuleni and I do all of these things. But I really think reframing networking is really important because you know there are, when you approach other people, they can help you, but you bring a lot of value to the table as well, right? So networking is a give and take, and it's not just you like feeling pressure to talk to all of these people.
Mhm.
Um, I think something that really helps with networking is to do research ahead of time and to understand the room you're walking into, and the types of people you're gonna meet. One example is I was going to a client dinner with my boss, and there was something that he said like that kind of blew my mind, because he was saying how he prepares the things he wants to talk about ahead of time with the clients, and he tried to like tailor that to like their hobbies or their interests or like whatever they might want to think about. And I don't know why like this this was so new to me, because it wouldn't have occurred to me to like prepare the topics I want to talk about ahead of time. But there are little things you can do that really help, like reading, being a well-rounded person. um, Before you meet someone, you can like skim the current events or world news or industry news, like choose 3 to 5 topics. Think about your personal like things that get you like needed, that bring you joy. So when you bring all of that to a networking conversation, we're not just like listing our credentials and where we went to school and what we do for work, right? I'm bringing my personality, and that way like they can respond to it, and I can ask what they like to do, like anything or that they've heard about, read about. Like if you look at it like person to person like that, it makes it a lot more easier. But
Yeah.
I would say like don't go like straight by the book, because a lot of us struggle with.
Yeah, and it makes it a lot less daunting too. Like if you have done your research and your homework about the person that you're gonna meet, especially for the first time, like just a quick like LinkedIn search, like maybe you went to the same school, maybe you studied the same major, something, you're gonna find something in common. And even if you don't find anything in common, I'm sure you could talk about things. Like I think I admire your boss for like having that little prep, even if he's not gonna talk about everything that he prepped for. At least you have something to draw from, you know what I mean, and like a conversation, so like it doesn't become awkward or
Exactly.
something. Because I recently did like a networking workshop for the students in my school, because this is a topic that a lot of me and my friends like talk about, because some people really fear just going up to a person and talking to them, and networking is framed in a way that it's like transactional almost, and it's like you're expecting to gain something from the other person. But I think it's important to think of it as like you're just getting to know this person, and it's not like they're gonna give you a job, but you never know how this relationship is gonna help you out in the future. And so I think, yeah, so that is also part of the unwritten rule of success, is like doing your homework first of all, because I feel like, I don't know, like a lot of things that you want to gain, you have to put in the effort. It's not gonna come easily or naturally to everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not only that, when you ask somebody to help you with something, you have to make it easy for them to help, because we're all busy, like probably they have other people asking them for help as well. So you really have to be like specific, and you have to go in and make it easier, like create a connection with them and make it easy for them to want to help you.
Yeah.
So there's always like, okay, we talked about the research you have to do beforehand, but also after networking, it's on you to get their contact information and like say thank you, and from time to time like update them on your progress, like keep in touch. So it's on you to kind of like develop that relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I completely agree with that. Especially that thank you after 24 hours.
Yeah.
No one tells you how important that is. You definitely have to say thank you, because that's a way for them also to remember. Imagine how many people, especially if it's like a big event. Imagine how many people they've met that day. So you definitely have to do these little things to stand out. One thing I want to mention that you also mentioned earlier was joy. So I wanted to ask you, what brings you joy?
Oh my God, that is such a great question. So, right now in the moment, I have gotten into running. Um, this year, I made a commitment to run one race, like one 5K race every month.
Oh
Um,
my god.
that's been bringing me a lot of joy. Why? Because running is a fairly, you can do it by yourself, right? It's not a
Yeah.
team sport. You can go at your own pace, so it's fairly like there aren't a lot of barriers to entry to that. But it was one of my New Year resolutions. So it was something I tried, and that really worked out for me.
Mm-hmm.
I always try, as I mentioned, I always try a new hobby. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But like just the trying itself, I would say brings me a lot of joy.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also like to take the moment to encourage people, if you try something and it doesn't work out for you, that's okay. There's always something else you can try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to commend you on that, by the way. I loved seeing all the videos that you make. Maybe like you can talk about the TikTok videos that you make. I've really liked seeing the creative side come out, and I feel like in this day and age, I think it's so much easier to connect with people who love doing the same thing, and I think it's easier to do that, but it's also very hard to be consistent. And yeah, do you want to talk more about that? How you started it?
Thank you so much for watching my video.
Of
First
course.
of all.
Of course.
So, as I mentioned, earlier in my career, I was working as a federal government contractor. So, like during those times, I wasn't prioritizing my personal brand or just having a presence on social media as much, because honestly, I didn't feel comfortable with my job. I was in a place in my life where I valued privacy a lot more. Not that I don't value it now, but was not in a place where I could do that. But then, as my circumstances changed, another one of my resolutions for this year was to make videos, not only because it helps you connect with other people, but especially for our generation, it really is hard to let people see you try at something you haven't perfected it yet, right? So, like, I had years of not being on social media, so it's very new for me.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm exploring now, very much trial and error. But I make videos about my hobbies, travel, books, tech. So those are like my main three content pillars. And right now I'm just really trying to be consistent with it. Like, okay, like let go of perfection, be okay with just making whatever I feel like making. And
Yeah.
Well, that. But yeah, I'm very much new to this space, but I've learned a lot making those videos. It's really to try to figure out what other people want to see, what kind of tips and content is helpful for other people as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's been going really well, I would say.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me so happy, honestly. I just love it when people are just, doing, the things that they love. And the only way like we can connect, I feel like now, because we all live in different parts of the world, is through social media. And I mean, yeah, like with it comes, balancing your mental health is important, and taking breaks and, from time to time, just to make sure you're not spending too much time on it. But I do really admire it, and I hope you keep on doing it, and you reach higher success and more hobbies, hopefully. And speaking of running 5Ks, like last November, me and my roommate, we signed up for a 5K a day before, and we went on a run the day before just to practice, and we did it the next day, and it was like a night run, so it was like in the dark, and but we did it in like 37 minutes, and it's like one of the best experiences ever. Like, I haven't done it since, but I could say that I've done a one 5K. So I feel like these are like, different things that you do to explore, different hobbies and find joy, because I feel like as much as we value career success and, professional educational success, these little things that we do fuel us, and I think it's also important to value them as much.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of hobbies, it's also another really, really great way of meeting people, right? I
Mm.
running, you can join a run club. If you like books, you can join a book club. So, that way your life is not like consumed by work and your other responsibilities, but you have ways to connect with other people, enjoy as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, meeting people is important, and I love meeting new people. So I feel like this is really great. Are there any aspects of like the unwritten rules of success that you think we haven't touched on?
Yes, there's one that's really huge.
Okay, what is it?
Or I think it's really huge.
Yeah.
State negotiation is really important. And
Mm.
always think of negotiation in terms of negotiating your compensation. But I would really love to invite people to think of it even in your daily life, right? We are all scared of asking too much, or like when you get an opportunity, you don't want to take it for granted. You're scared of losing it if you ask for too much, right? So, but even in our daily conversations, there's always something that I could, maybe you're working on something, there's always something I can help you with that, and you can help me with what I'm working on, right? So um always be in the habit of like, here are the resources I that would really help me out, or like, here are the things I need, but also at the same time offer your help, or like offer to take some things off other people's plates so that they can do the same for you. And I think this goes back to, like, asking for help. I think we touched on it, but always like negotiate the things you have to do, always negotiate the things that fall on your plate, because
Mhm.
there's always someone help you out, and
Yeah.
also vice versa, reciprocate as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, especially when it comes to like assignments or like things that you have to do. Like, negotiation is really important. There was this class in grad school called managerial negotiations. I didn't end up taking it, but I attended the first class, and it still stuck with me, because we were given this exercise where we had to negotiate buying a used car. And so basically they, like, it was like two, like, we were paired, and the information I had as the buyer and the information the dealer had were completely different. Like, I had a different number, and the other person had a different number, and at the end of the day, the point is to reach a number that was satisfactory for both of us. And so through that, you learn that negotiation is a skill, and it's something that you practice. And I think it's very important. And as you said, especially as women, when it comes to like maybe like salary negotiation, you said, compensation, like, these are things that are part of the unwritten rules of success, which is like very, very important, because even in like career resources, they don't usually prep you for these kinds of things, because when you apply for a job, let's say there's the range of pay, but a lot of times men would try to get paid more than that, and women would just like take the whatever is written on the job description. Even like applying for a job that you just qualified maybe for the 3 bullet points, and you're like, okay, like the fourth one I don't qualify, so I'm not gonna apply. And so I think it's very important. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because things, first of all, there's always room for negotiation. I don't think things in life are set like on exactly one number or one criteria. There's always room to go back and forth and negotiate. But not only that, everything tends to there's this idea of compounding interest, right? So even if it's like $1,000 that you have to negotiate for, and then you don't, thinking, okay, it's only $1,000, right? But like when you think of the impact of that over 7 years, that would be like thousands of dollars. And the same in opportunities you choose not to pursue, as you mentioned, because like you don't qualify all the points, right? So every opportunity you don't take, if you look at it from the other side, if you actually decide to pursue that, when you look at your trajectory over 10, 20 years, that could have been something that would have helped you out a lot. So like everything has a compounding interest in life. So when we don't pursue it, like we lose on that interest as well.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm so glad that you raised it. As we're ending our conversation, do you have any advice for current prospective international students who are, navigating the unwritten rules of success?
Yes, I have two. The first one is we talked about it a lot. Please prioritize finding a mentor and find someone who knows you well, who knows you as a person, who sees you, who sees your dedication, your work ethic. That really could change the trajectory of your life. And ask for help, of course. And most importantly, I would really say plan ahead, especially international students. Your needs might be different. There are always limitations regarding your visa, your paperwork, recommendations, all of that. So it's really, really important to think long term ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I second everything you said. Mentorship is important, planning ahead is important, and also like learning from other people who have gone through a similar path. Like I feel like I've learned a lot from people who have come before me, who are open to share their experiences and to talk about the struggles that they have, so then I don't repeat the same mistakes that they've made. And that was also one of the motivations of starting this podcast, is like a lot of people go through this experience of college, and we don't really talk about these little things that we did that were that we found helpful, but like we don't share it to other people. And so I completely agree with what you said. Thank you so much, Kuleni, for your time and for being my guest. I really do appreciate it. Any last words before I close us out?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great
Of course.
to you. Of course, I commend you for having this podcast and reaching out and helping so many people. Thank you for having me, and
Of course. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So please make sure everybody to go follow the official Instagram page at Internationalie by Ruth. That is LIE. And send an email with your questions and concerns about being an international student to internationaliebyruth@gmail.com. Thank you again for tuning in today. I hope you have a lovely week ahead of you, and take care of yourselves, everyone. Bye.